I'm Natalie Miles. I'm based in Salt Lake City, Utah, and I work at Wardley Homes. I started out as a designer in new construction for many years, and then kind of snowballed. I got my general contractor's license 3 years ago, and so I do kind of everything in between. I work on the design side of things of projects, project manager, general contractor, like whatever cap I need to wear during whatever part of the day, then, I just switch out and kind of do it. I love being in construction. I love being on job sites, and yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds for me in this career, especially as a woman in a construction related career. I am president of Utah Professional Women in Building, which is Professional Women in Building is a national organization. And I'm president of our Utah chapter right now, and was able a few years ago to participate in a really cool project called The House That She Built that many people are familiar with. On House, there's an article that you guys have done on that, I believe, Cameron, on The House That She Built and the book behind it. And I'm one of those women on that team. So anyways, that's a little bit about me.
It's amazing. Natalie, you're a boss. I'm going to come work for you in Mexico.
Let's do it.
Yeah. My name's Luke Thomas. I own and operate H&L Design and Build. Been in business since 2019, but full-time just for the last 3 years. And we've exploded with growth. We've doubled revenue every year, which sounds fun, but to Cameron's background, it's like a roller coaster that you don't know what's coming next. And you have no seatbelt. So it's been really, really intense. It's been a great ride. We have an incredible team, and something that's not on my LinkedIn. I'm not sure. My friend Sarah writes my LinkedIn. I got 3 kids. I got 2 teenagers and a 10-year-old boy who's obsessed with Fortnite, like every 10-year-old boy.
So you live on the roller coaster in your personal life and in your professional life.
That is a great way to say it. Get me off.
I was going to say, do you want off this ride, or?
I'm here for counseling.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. It looks like we have a good 28 of us. That's awesome. So whole lot of states, and we even have Canada. Thank you, Kevin. So there's a couple things we want to do here, and then we'll get into these questions. So one, we want to talk about how do you educate the homeowners on your process and the costs. You guys do it all day long. This is your job and it's your profession. A homeowner, generally speaking, only wants to do it one time. So it's probably the first time for them, maybe the second if they've been around the block. But most people, for the home renovation process can be stressful. It can be ugly. It can break marriages. It can break relationships. It can be terrible, such that nobody wants to do it a second time. A lot of people would rather move than renovate a second time after they go through a terrible one. I lived through it as a little kid. It was a whole home renovation, took 3 years and 3 contractors and a couple of lawsuits. It was ugly. And my parents never did it again. They moved instead of doing it again. So let's start there. I want to start at the highest level. How do you prioritize customer satisfaction and loyalty? And what benefits do you see from focusing on those aspects of your work and your projects, instead of just, I'll take any work, I need to keep my subbies on site, I'll take any project? How do you prioritize the satisfaction and the loyalty in your businesses?
You want to go first, Luke?
Only because you asked. Yeah, I think, Cameron, you mentioned process. And that reminds me, I think I heard a long time ago, under promise, over deliver. But I think in the construction world, even if you make a promise and you deliver on it, you're in the top 10%. There's some real low hanging fruit in our industry. Hopefully it's not this way forever. Hopefully everybody chooses to elevate in our industry and deliver great service and great product. But I heard somebody else say that our brand is our promise. So, you can present yourself in one way, but if you don't make good on that promise, then your brand is trash. So prioritizing customer satisfaction, if we can deliver on all of our promises, if we can not over-promise, if we can over-communicate, if they can understand what is our process, what can you expect, whose ball or whose court is this ball in next? Are we on selections phase and we've sent you selections and now we're waiting? They should know at every step of the journey who is in charge of bringing their best, and when can you expect that to happen? And you can expect very few surprises because we plan extensively. Pre-construction is probably the most important thing that we do. We spend just as long, if not longer, in pre-construction than we do in construction, because we need to have a great plan and we want to deliver on the dream. So with a customer or a client, if their dream is only as extensive as their Pinterest board, there's a lot of work to do. And we're happy to do that work, and that's exciting work. But there's an enormous amount, thousands and thousands and thousands of decisions to be made. And if we as professionals aren't holding their hand through the whole thing, then we aren't being professional. So customer satisfaction, loyalty, we are who we say we are. We show up when we say we will. We over communicate, we over deliver, and those are some things that we say from the front end, and then we work really hard that we never have to take back those words.
Yeah, I agree with what you have to say with that, Luke. And I think on top of that too is that as builders, we need to show that we're confident in what we're doing and confidence in our team. And when we relay that information to our owners, to our customers, that we're a confident team and we're here and we're going to get this job done for you. We're going to get it in. We're going to get your visions made. We're going to keep to your budget as much as we can as possible. But like you said, having that clear communication with them from the get-go of how it's going to go, and having the confidence to do that, because if you present your project and you don't have the confidence with how that's going to get done and who your team is and what the process is going to be like, then your customers are not going to have faith in you and confidence in you. And that's where they come in, they can micromanage you. Why isn't this getting done? Or what's going on today? But if you can comfort those owners clear at the beginning and give them that confidence that you're going to get this job done and that you are skilled to do this and that you have the team to back you up, that's going to make this happen. Then I think that goes hand in hand with providing that loyalty to the customers and giving them confidence that you're the right person for this job.
Yeah, that's great. So let's start with some of the challenges. If you do it wrong, what are some of the most common communication challenges you all find with your homeowners, with your projects, and how do you overcome them?
I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong on any project. And I think that always recognizing what the problem is and having a solution for that and then addressing it with your homeowners. I think not letting them know about it and then they find out otherwise that there's a problem with something, a problem in communication, a problem with material, or anything can happen with the job. But I think it's very important to be on your feet and be able to have a solution to whatever problem that comes up and then be able to address that to your homeowners and, to say, hey, look, this was unexpected. This happened. We want to stay in communication with you. We're going to make everything right, but this is our solution, how we're going to get around this problem right here.
Yeah, I love that. And to reiterate what you said, Natalie, is taking ownership of that. Every step of the way, taking ownership around every, if a sub makes a mistake or your own team makes a mistake or the light fixture was in the wrong place or, whatever could happen, because there's, again, thousands of things that could happen in a very complex system like a home, is taking ownership and being confident about that to say, no, we own this. We'll take care of it. It's, here's how we're going to take care of it. Here's how we're going to communicate with you throughout it. Here's the financial implications, if any. Here's the financial implications that I'm going to own because it was my mistake. Here's the stuff that I need to talk about with you. Those kinds of things. I think the other thing that goes wrong with communication is all the different parties at play communicating. And they're all communicating at once. And the client oftentimes feels trapped in the middle and it feels disorganized. And, many of us work for high-level professionals that are day in and day out in a professional setting. They're leaders. They're oftentimes very, very successful. And if we don't operate in that professional level of excellence, then there's confusion. And like you said, Natalie, and then they feel like they got to take over. And now they're the assistant to the general contractor. And now it's Dwight barging into the office all the time asking if Michael needs help. Of course, Michael does need help. This is a bad example, but we don't need that help, right? But if we don't exude the confidence and the skills to take care of it, then it's understandable why a client with their money and their heart tied in it can get panicked.
Yeah, exactly. I saw a stat from forgot where I read it, but the average custom home takes 2,000 decisions by the homeowner. Imagine that. You gotta decide 2,000 things to get the home of your dreams. That's a lot of work. That sounds like decision overload. And I love your point about your homeowners that can afford this kind of renovation. They're professionals. They do all kinds of. Who knows what they do all day, but you don't want a homeowner having to step in and be your right-hand person. You don't need an assistant to the regional manager. You probably have one. It's the project manager, the foreman, the forewoman. I love that. So you guys talked about process. How do you ensure the process is transparent and that there's a place to put all that communication so that your homeowner doesn't have to parachute in and try to fix it, or so that the homeowner is confident that you guys got it under control?
Yeah, I think everybody does their process just a little bit different, like my process, I work with a smaller builder. We're a very small team. We kind of go between semi-custom to full custom in our homes. And, my experience is that people don't understand the process. If you're going to a mass produce home company, then the process is simplified for you, right? You have the sales agent that you go to, and then you have the design center, and most of the decisions are already made for you. That list of 2,000 decisions is now you have 10 decisions to make. That's cut down significantly when you go to a larger mass-produced builder. But when you're more in semi-custom, then you have. I think 2,000 decisions is on the low end of how many decisions actually need to be made. But I created a process for myself as educating homeowners that this is what's going into a house. This is the schedule of things that go into the house. And this is when we need things by this time. It's kind of, I don't know, I call it my building for dummies, but of course that's not what I title it and send it out to my homeowners. But I do a whole slide presentation for them so they can visually see this is the process. These are the things that we need. These are your allowances. And this is a timeline that we need to make these decisions in because this is our time frame it takes to build a house. This is these steps to our 4-way inspection, and these are our next steps to the next stage of the build. And I think that once homeowners understand a little bit more of what the process is of building the home and all the steps that go into it, then they can see that visually of, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to get this by this time. And, this is what I can expect during the process of my home. So I think educating the homeowners is a really good utility to use when you first approach a project. And then ongoing through the project from the beginning and throughout the project, using a platform like House Pro, where the project, everything is in there. You can have your mood boards, your ideas, your selections, your calendar, your financials, and having something like that you can share with your homeowners that, okay, we are organized and here's all the information. Everything you need to know about your house is going to be here in this one place. You can log in anytime. You can check that out. You can check status. You can check our schedule. And that prevents them from bothering us and bothering our subcontractors on the job all the time, is that they're not questioning what's going on in the process, because they're able to see that in real time.
Yeah, I think about it almost like GPS. If I was going to drive out to see Stefan on the house team out in Seattle, and I'm in New York, if I just put up my GPS and it's this big track all the way across the country, That's extremely overwhelming and not helpful. I can see that there is a path, but I don't know how to drive that path. I don't, but as soon as you hit go, what does it do? It zooms way in. And it tells you those turn-by-turn directions, but it doesn't tell you all of them. It just tells you the next couple so that you can prepare for them. And I feel like a great process is like that in an enormous endeavor like a custom home or a full home renovation, where there's thousands of decisions to be made, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to be spent in something that they're not familiar with, they're not trained in. They should be able to go to a professional like us and we say, okay, here's the big picture. We're going to go from here to here. Here's the big process. And here's kind of some landmarks and some milestones that you can look forward to, but let's zoom right in. And here's the next two. Here's the next two decisions. That's a great process. And yeah, as Natalie said, House Pro is set up in a great way to do that.
Yeah, I've had a homeowner, I've been working with her over the last 2 years, maybe close to 3 years, but she really, really struggles with making decisions. She gets overwhelmed, quite frankly, about all the options and all the decisions all at once. And she has a really hard time focusing on what we need to make decisions on right now, And so I've constantly had to reassure her of being like, look, I'm keeping track of everything that you like, that you're interested. I'm documenting it. You like this and this and this. Like I'm putting together the big picture so that you don't have to. That's where my talent, my skill lies, is taking all your ideas and pulling those all together. Right now, I just need you to focus on this one thing, and then we'll move on to the next one, And so I think clear communication and realizing what the homeowners are struggling with, and being able to bring it down, like you said, Luke, like bring it down to that close view. What are we doing first? What's our first destination? Let's get here. We have this big trip in front of us and it's overwhelming. Totally understand that. But, let's focus this right now and we'll get you there, but I know where we're going. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to your point, Natalie, it's like, we need to reassure, not to beat a dead horse with the analogy, but like we've made this trip many times before. We know the best route. We know the best car to drive in. We know the best fuel stops. We know the best food stops. We know the best breweries all along the way and the best sites. Like just hop in. We'll tell you what's next.
Yep.
I love the analogies. A good metaphor goes a long way. So I wanted to ask about customer satisfaction. Oh, let's continue the metaphor. As you're driving across country, you know where you're going. The homeowner more or less knows because you explained it to them. How do you ensure they're having a good trip? How do you ensure that, or how do you manage client expectations and maintain that positive relationship between New York and Portland? You don't want to get to Portland and they hate you. You want to get to Portland and they love you, maybe even more than when you guys left in New York.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's with my kids, I just throw snacks in the back seat. I wish it were that easy.
Me too.
Right? But I would say that maybe similar to that, it is those constant and frequent updates and helping them understand that this isn't a one-way communication. I'm not just updating you to keep you off my back. I'm updating you so that you have the same level of confidence when we started. But I also want to hear from you. How are you feeling? I was at a job site today and homeowners were there and asked about their day, their weekend, their work week, pet the dog, asked about the kids' sports, Thanksgiving coming up, all those different kinds of things. And then asked, how do you feel like the project's going? And I just had to discipline myself to be quiet. And she paused for a minute, almost like, it's actually going really well. Like these guys have been great. I checked on house. You guys are on schedule. Any surprises? I'm like, no, we're on the final stretch. Like everything's looking beautiful. She's like, you're right, it is. And because I opened dialogue, it almost surprised her that because she's busy. She's a busy professional. She had a moment to not take the blinders off, because when you're in a full home renovation, homeowners are like, how do I get to my car? I don't want to see the chaos. But she kind of took the blinders off and she's like, actually, it's going really well. I'm like, thank you. It's like, oh, You're welcome.
Yeah. I think that asking them and get that reassurance from them also is very good. And I think reassuring them too that your house is really pretty. Like you're doing a really good job of picking out things that are nice for your house. You're doing a really good job, like boosting them up and telling them they're doing a great job at this. Then I think that soothes them, because I think so many people are really worried about making the wrong decision. Am I making the right decision? They second guess themselves? But I think giving the reassurance also that you're doing a great job, that goes a long ways. I found too, as being a part-time marriage counselor as a builder, is that, sometimes the kids in the back seat are arguing with each other, and you just want to like knock their heads together and be like, tell them to knock it off kind of thing. but I find a lot when working with couples is that, usually one is making more of the decisions, is more overpowering. And then you might have like a quiet one that's just kind of goes along with everything, but I make sure I'm always checking in, not just with them as a couple, as a pair, but also individually too, and realizing what's important to one is not important to the other, vice versa, but maybe checking in with like the more quiet ones and be like, hey, how do you feel about it? Are you okay with everything that we worked on today? Is there anything that you want different? And then once they know that they have that voice independently from the two of them making all the decisions, then they might like, well, I do, then they have that voice to speak. And I think that it's important to make sure that you're giving your homeowners a safe space to be able to communicate what they really want, and sometimes that's, like, hey, can I grab you and walk you through this area of the house? Maybe just separating that sometimes. And I don't want to make it sound like I'm pinning people against each other, but I try to make sure that each person is communicating what they want, and I think that saves a lot of heartache in the long run. And that gives them more confidence in you that you're actually really listening to them, to each of them independently as people.
Yeah, I'm always reminding our clients and our team, like, we get to build it. They have to live with it. So how sad would it be if we create such a rigid process or, a barrier between management and them, or the team and them, that mid-project they feel like they can't speak up about maybe a selection or the position of a wall, whatever it might be. I mean, it's their home. And we are business owners, and we want to own the process and the product that we deliver, but we don't own their home. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to have that really great line with customer experience and customer satisfaction, where the team understands, like, this is their house. It's your job site. We build something great, but they have to live with it. So if they say something, don't dismiss it. Don't belittle it. We acknowledge it, we consider it, and then we bring it up the chain if we need to for a significant change.
That's a good point. Depending on how big the remodel is, they might live there for 20, 30 years on top of the work that you and your team just did. So make sure they love it, or at least they love it in the moment enough to get through the project and make sure that they're happy when the keys get handed over and you're done with the punch list. This is great. So I want to open it up to the audience. If you guys have questions for Natalie and Luke, they're throwing down metaphors and words of wisdom all over the place here. So if you have things you want to ask about, put it in the chat and we'll get it in front of them. I wanted to shift gears a little bit and talk about cost. We talked a little bit about like communicating the cost to the homeowner, but can you guys talk us through some of the benefits and pitfalls that you see in the world of like flat fee project versus cost plus, and how that relates to the customer? Because, depending on how big the job is, you'll have a different pricing structure, or depending on how complex the job is, you're going to be just about part of their family for a year or two, depending on how big the job is. But how do you guys price? Let's start there. How do you guys price, and what are some of the benefits, and take the benefits and pitfalls of flat fee versus cost plus?
That's always a fun one. I've done both. Both have their benefits and their downfalls in it. I think for a better customer experience, my opinion, I think cost plus is better. I think because there's more transparency in that when it's cost plus, and that gives homeowners, I don't know, when they trust you and they know what's going on with their job, especially like we talked about earlier in this conversation about we work with we're building homes for very professional people a lot of the time. I know I do. We have in the area that I build out, it's called Silicon Slopes. We have a lot of tech jobs and tech people out here, and that's primarily who we build our homes for. And so when people can see that transparency and things, and they want that knowledge, they want the information, then I feel like that goes smoother. Having the cost plus program, it does require more work, I think, on the builder side of things, of being on top of your estimates and your bids and getting things approved and make sure you're communicating with the homeowner through that process. But I think overall, when it comes to customer satisfaction, I think that's a good process to have. For other projects, if I'm not doing like a full home and I'm just doing like a little remodel or just a little side project here and there, for me, that's easier just to do a flat fee for the project and just, but I'm like doing, it's going to be this much, it's going to be the labor, it's going to be material, it's going to take me this much time, because there's not so much involved with it. Because then I can get that job done quicker and turn around quicker. And usually when it's something that I know and I've done this a million times, then it's easier for me. Okay, let's keep it simple. It's going to cost this much. I can start this date and let's go. So benefits, I think, depending on what the project is, of doing cost plus versus having a set price on it. I don't know. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, right now we are at flat fee or fixed price, and have been since we've started. The challenge with that, especially early on, as I underestimated both materials and labor as I was learning, it was a very expensive education, because you lose money and you got to own the fact that you estimated it wrong. And you can't go to a customer and say, hey, I estimated it wrong. It's actually 20% more. At least I chose not to do that. Now we're getting much, much better at our estimating, and we're pulling our profit margin like we should, still through fixed cost. What it's forced us to do is do great pre-construction. We're in remodeling, so anticipating what the problems might be, being very thorough with mechanicals in our investigative process, spending a lot of time in the home prior to really understand what do we feel like are behind these walls? What is this move going to entail? Structurally, what are we going to need to do to move that over there or remove that there, so that we don't give a flat fee and then we're just hitting our clients with change orders every time we open a wall. So whether it was cost plus or fixed costs, I don't think our process would change very much. We would still do very extensive pre-construction, because a surprise is a surprise for a client, and surprises aren't fun. Until you hand them the keys early. That's a great surprise, but that rarely happens. So I've thought about going cost plus. There are some benefits there in protecting the builder, to, in some ways guarantee the profit that we need to make. But like Natalie said, it's a lot of work during project rather than a lot of work prior to project. So for now, we're going to stay fixed, but I could see a need potentially for cost plus in the future.
Yeah,
That's a great bit of insight on why you've stayed fixed price, because you're really good at estimating. And you have a process that's baked that you can more or less use over and over within reason. There's a question from the floor from Cesar about, when you're doing cost plus, do you count everything from when the contract is signed, like permits and renters and change orders and admin fees, or are you adding that in later as it arises? So I guess this is for Natalie.
When I do a cost plus, we usually have a base price that we know that's going to cover our permits, the land, our overhead, kind of the general costs. And then as we build, like, we're going to estimate all the products going through the build, right? And so we do quite a bit of work in the front end of it also when it comes to estimating and get that out there, because we want them to have a pretty good idea of what the house is gonna cost. And so once we have a base price, usually our model is our permits, our land, utilities are kind of in a set price up front. And then as we get material on the jobs, and that's where we put in place our cost plus model.
Okay, thank you. Cesar, I hope that answered your question, but if there's other questions from the floor, bring them up. This is the time to ask the opinions and guidance of people that might be a couple of, maybe another level beyond you or doing in a different area. This is for you. James, do you bill so a question from James, do you bill for your time spent on the pre-construction work to determine the full scope for your fixed cost? So do you bill for estimates, Luke?
We do. We bill $500 for our in-home visit. That's at least about an hour. We do scans through house. We talk the client through our process. They describe their dream, the problems they're trying to solve, how long they estimate being in the home, et cetera, et cetera. And then we go around and get a good look at the mechanicals, some of the structural thing, and really take a lot of notes. There's 3 of us that go. So that's $500. It works both to cover a portion of our time, but it also vets the clients a little bit more. People who are really serious, they're ready to spend, will book those. And then we charge 5% of the total project fee for design, development, and pre-construction. So after we estimate all of the building costs, labor and material, it's 5% of that is part of our preliminaries for design and collaboration throughout.
Interesting. Okay. And what if they already have, architectural plans and they've been around the block a few times? Does that design phase just go away? Like you don't need to do that?
No, it doesn't go away. If their project needs architectural plans, we have an architect that we work with, and we can add that to the estimate if they want to work with our architect. If they bring us plans, unfortunately, we always have to re-engineer them, because after talking with us and our designers, they're like, oh, maybe I don't want my primary closet over there. Maybe I want it over there. And so we end up redesigning architectural plans anyways. I wish people would come to design build firms first before they go to architects, because I think we can save them some money and some pain. But no, that design, that 5% does not change. Because of the thousands of decisions that need to happen, the high level of hand holding, and we're in the driver's seat, right? And if they're hungry, we're going to throw them a snack. And if they need to pull over, we're going to pull over. Like we're in the driver's seat, and there's a cost to that.
Yeah, understood. Follow up from Kevin about the fixed price process. Luke, how long did it take you to get that dialed in? It sounds like it's not really on rinse and repeat, but that's the best metaphor I can think of. It's dialed in. You can copy it over and use it for other jobs. How long did that take you to land on your process?
I would say 5 projects that are almost identical to one another. So you'll have a great kitchen estimate skeleton after you've screwed up 5 of them. Same with bathrooms, same with kitchen plus, same with an addition. But I'm a slow learner. I'm sure you get better, Kevin.
What about you, Natalie? I know it comes from years of experience in the field, but how long did it take you to get your fixed price process dialed in so that you can do those very quick bathrooms or a quick kitchen?
For us, our process is a little bit different because we're more of a custom builder from the ground up, not really remodel. And so by the time we have a homeowner that we're building a home with, they've already met with the sales agent and determined the price of the house and paid a deposit and everything, a non-refundable deposit for the build, and that's kind of what gets us for our estimating and our planning and everything is the deposit that they pay as far as purchasing the home, the land from us. For me, when the builder that I work with right now, we dialed more into like a price per square foot. We know the area that we're in and the finishes that we put into a house. And so usually our estimate is put in as a square foot price. And we have like a couple of model homes that we show homeowners like this is our standard of what we put in homes is be our standard kind of appliances, flooring and things like that. So homeowners have an idea where they're going to get, but then it's just communicate with them too, that this is your price per square foot for our standard. But there might be some additional changes. You might have change orders. You might want to spend more money in one place on tile or in the kitchen or countertops or somewhere else. So our process is a little bit different, where we come in more at a square footage price.
Got it. Understood. So it sounds like you guys have you're getting close when you have a process dialed in, to Kevin's point, that is well oiled and you've proven it and you know it works and you can just roll it back out again. It almost sounds like it's automated in a way. Do you guys use any automation tools in your business, whether it's software or other things to help automate, giving the client a good experience and setting up processes for the future?
Yeah, the best example really is House Pro does this, with templates, right? So you can build templates for kitchen, bathroom, kitchen plus, addition, small addition, large addition, whatever it might be. And then you can also, like, so there was a kitchen that I did and we nailed the estimate. And I'm like, finally, on the sixth one, after screwing up 5, like, we nailed it. We nailed the profit margin, time, materials. It was great. I actually took that estimate and there's a little button in-house and you can make it a template. So I made it a template, genericked it all out, and then using that one and then just kind of tweaking it for that particular remodel. That helps a ton. And then we can do that with schedules. And so now at this point, we're almost copying over entire projects. From the estimate, the schedule, all those different things, we're kind of copying the whole project as a template in a way. We're doing it in a couple steps. And then we kind of customize it so we don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah, we're using the same process also, Luke. It's been a really great tool of being able to use those templates. And once you kind of dial in, like, okay, this is everything that's on our job. And like you said, like, you get the one right, you're like, yes, okay, this is it. And it's okay, save this template as the master template. And then you can copy and paste that and be able to fill that out per the job of what is unique to that specific job and make those adjustments really easily. It's been a really great tool to use.
Yeah, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. I just put up a poll for everyone in the audience about automation. Oh, it is open. Sorry about that. Basically asking what part of your workflow could benefit from automations. I see someone said selection. Someone else said comments from homeowners, sort of that like client communication aspect. But fill out that poll. I really want to hear that because it'll help guide the discussion. And then we'll go down that lane while you guys fill that out. There was a question from Crystal in the audience. What do you do with the clients who are just unpleasable? So Luke, you mentioned that your on-site visit with 3 people for $500 helps you weed out clients who you don't want to work with. So one question is, how often does that happen? How often are you saying, I'm not the person for you, here's someone else you should call? And then to Crystal's question, what do you do if they're just very hard to please?
Great question. First, I would say you've got to be honest and trust your gut. You really do. You've got to trust your gut. If you're just not jiving with these people and you wouldn't be willing to like have a cup of coffee with them or a beer with them on a normal setting, you probably should not build for them, because building for them is way more intrusive and intimate than having a cup of coffee or a beer. So you got to trust your gut with it, and you got to find a way to gracefully exit that relationship. So, we'll go to in-home estimates and we'll charge our $500, and, we might get some mixed signals. And then the 3 of us, because there's 3 of us that go to estimates, we usually are on the phone right afterwards as soon as we leave the driveway. And the first question is, what do you think? It's not how much do you think, it's what do you think? And really what we're trying to hear from one another is, what was your gut reaction to that person or that family or that marriage? And there are times, I would say there's probably 3 a year right now, and we do about 20 projects a year. There's probably about 3 a year that we're like, it's not, there's money there, but it's just not good. And whenever we don't listen to that, it's a challenge. It's a challenge. Finding a way to gracefully exit, if you can, pre-contract. I usually am willing to give money back pre-contract. Even post-contract, we had someone exit and ask for all of their money back and their deposit, their full deposit back. And they, it was coming up. It was in like 3 months. Some of the pre-construction had already started. And I said, thank God. And I was happy to give them their deposit back, because it would have cost me more in the long run if we had stayed in relationship and done that build. So you got to trust your gut, and then you've got to find a way to tactfully, respectfully, and gracefully exit.
Yeah, I have a couple of different scenarios from the builder that I'm working with now, and then versus when I do my own projects. And when I do my own projects, it's more design sort of things. And when I initially meet with the client, I tell them, I said, look, let's meet for a consult. I'll do like 30 minutes, no charge, just to meet with them. Anything longer than that, then I do charge more. But like, let's do a consult. I want to meet you. Let's grab a cup of coffee. I want to see your ideas, because I want to know if it's a good fit for me. And I let them know. I'm like, let's see if this project is a good fit for each other. So I'm kind of let them know upfront that I'm not just working for anybody. This is an interview process for me as well, because they have to like me. They need to like my style. They need to like the way that I do things. And I need to get a feel for them, whether I think they're going to be a good client. And I think over the years, you have some markers, some red flags, and just being like, my schedule is really busy. I just don't feel like this project is the right fit for me at this time. And I think that comes with experience too, of knowing that it's okay to say no to work. There'll be more work. If you're talented and good at what you do, there's always going to be work, and it's okay to say no to that. For the builder that I work with currently, I don't get to vet those. So that makes it a lot more difficult, because usually they're working with the real estate agent, they want to sell, and, it's sold and people are ready to build a home. And I don't get to say on what my homeowners are going to be like and be able to vet them through that process. So at that point, yes, I've had some very, very difficult homeowners. And let me tell you, my patient has been tried this last year like it never has been. But at the end of the day, I want to finish this project. I want to be happy about my build and be proud of the work that is done, no matter how difficult that homeowner is. And so a lot of times it's agreeing, it's putting a smile on your face and be like, yeah, we can, yep, absolutely, we'll make that happen for you. And then then you get in your car and you scream all the way home.
Yeah.
But it's keeping the bigger picture. The big picture is I want to be proud of the work that I do. And so by doing that, I will communicate with this homeowner. I'll put a smile on my face and I'll make things happen, but sometimes you do have to let the homeowners know that, like, what things are getting a little bit icy, or we might be a little bit on edge. And, sometimes I've had situations where I've had to be really firm with homeowners and be like, look, I can't do this. I can't do this way anymore. I need you to not come visit the job site because it's interfering with our work. There's a dozen different situations where homeowners can be really difficult, and sometimes you need to be firm with them. It's like the kid on the road trip. Sometimes you got to be firm parenting. You can't just always be super nice and yeah, because you don't want to be walked all over. But sometimes you got to be a little bit firm and like, what, this is an industry standard. This is the way that we're going to do this. I need you to do this or that. And I think it's okay to be firm. Like, you need to be professional and show that you're professional. Even if that means sometimes you have a difficult client and you need to be a little bit more firm with them about what's going to happen or what's not going to happen.
Yeah, I read Crystal, I read your full thing in the chat there. And I would just encourage you, you can be a servant without being a doormat. We have respect for our clients. They should have respect for us, unless you've done something to break their respect or your crew has. And if they haven't, then the pressure to keep them working, they would probably prefer you stand up for them and you protect them as your employees from being talked down to, or whatever the case may be, by saying no to a toxic or an unhealthy work environment for your crew. So, and you got, like Natalie said, you got to trust that if you do good work, those bad clients are actually holding the spot up. They're standing in the spot of a good client coming your way. So it takes some guts, it takes some faith, but you got to do the right thing by your team, and stand up for yourself. Like, we're professionals as well.
Yeah, if you only have 20 projects you do a year, or 10 if they're really big, some number of those bad clients are going to get thrown back. Manuela wanted to know about, how deep do you go qualifying a client or a homeowner? Do you do background checks, for example, or do you look at liens and lawsuits that might be outstanding on that person? Like public record searches, you're not hiring private investigators, but like, do you do it all based on guts, face to face, or do you do anything else to potentially weed out a bad client?
You probably do more of that vetting process than I do, Luke.
Yeah. It's a lot of gut. But if we're still kind of on the fence a little bit, especially if they've said that they had prior bad experiences with contractors, and we're still like, maybe they had a bad experience with you, client, then sometimes I'll contact the owners of those companies and I'll say, hey, does this name ring a bell? And they'll either say no, or they'll say, yeah, like it was a nightmare. And then we know to stay away.
Yeah, but I think intuition says a lot about things too, and not just working with homeowners, but other building professionals too. If you need a new subcontractor that you're hiring and vetting, or maybe you have a developer, like for me, a developer that wants me to come in and be the general for them or something. And it's like, okay, this seems like too good to be true. Maybe we should step back and look into this person, maybe ask around a little bit about this person and see if they have any red flags or green flags before I pursue with this decision.
Mm-hmm. Another little tip is, especially when you're in their home, if their family's around, their kids, the dog, their spouse, how they treat their family is probably how they're eventually going to treat you. If they're screaming at their kids, or they're kicking the dog, or they're rolling their eyes at their spouse, chances are they're probably going to do that to you, because you're going to be pushing their buttons. So if they can be a respecter of person, especially when there's a guest, you, in their home, then chances are, it'll probably work out.
I've learned in my long career in the world, my long life in the world, your gut is rarely wrong. Sometimes it is, but very rarely. And when you go against that in your intuition, you're causing yourself problems, because then there's the voice in the back of your head that says, "You see, I told you so. You should have listened to me." All right, we got a couple questions from the floor, and then I think we'll wrap it up pretty soon. We're at the top of the hour. All right, Katie. Let me see what Katie's question is about.
Detailed estimates, yeah.
Yeah, detailed estimates. So I'll read the question out for those who can't see the chat. So Katie has a commercial construction business, and they just added a residential arm last year. They're learning very quickly that homeowners need proposals itemized differently than how you run a commercial project, broken down by CSI and trades. How do you detail out your estimates and proposals for homeowners?
It is a lot more detailed, because they really know. Because when you're building for homeowners, I mean, that's personal. That's their home. That's not a commercial. It's not a construction. It's not a business, that there might be more funding for. Like, this is our life savings or whatever, do this remodel or to do this new build. And so it is important to have that very, very detailed about what that's going to be. We try to do when we do our proposals is that a lot of the times something like the details, like people are interested on, how much can I spend on square footage of carpet and tile and this. And sometimes it's hard to really narrow that down to an exact number, because you don't know where they're going to choose from. Do they want a tile that's $55 a square foot, or are they okay with a tile that's $3 a square foot? Like, we don't really know what their tastes are a lot of times at this point of it. And so I think just from experience and knowledge of after meeting with them and seeing what they like and what direction they're going in with it, then you kind of tailor your estimate to be more specific to them of, this is how much it's going to cost. But then I usually try to do like a separate sheet, because sometimes like your cost for electrical is going to include everything from your wiring, your audio, your light fixtures, it doesn't, we don't always break out specifically, you need to pick a light fixture that costs this much or this much. So we usually kind of do like a general spread of each category of the building expenses are going to go into it. And then I will give them another thing, be like, so to stay in this budget that we created for you, then you have $20,000 to spend on light fixtures. You have maybe $50,000 to spend on appliances. We're going to be at $75,000 for cabinets, and so to make these more tangible for them, you do have to kind of detail that in separate ways when it comes to residential. Just because there are a lot more decisions that need to be made. It's just not black and white like a lot of commercial projects are. You really do have to spend a lot of time on the details.
Yeah, ours is very similar to what Natalie is doing, and Katie, I'd be happy to send you some of ours. I'll put my email in the chat so that you have it. Just reach out and be happy to send you what we got and what I feel like has worked well and what hasn't.
Do you guys?
Katie, I'm looking at your follow-up. It says, do you ever structure it with tiered allowances? We don't, because we're more of a custom builder, and by what we do, our finishes as a standard are nicer finishes. You're going to have gourmet appliances in your kitchen. We have nicer finishes to begin with as a standard, and so that falls more into the design process, where we might be with the homeowner, be like, hey, our standard is we like this line of Delta or Moen, and if you stay in here and not look at everything in the showroom, then you're going to be okay. You're going to be in budget, but if it's really important to you that you have this brand or this brand of plumbing or appliances or whatever, then okay, let's walk through that and let's talk through that at that moment of what those costs might incur. So we don't do like a good, better, and best, because I feel like our standard, we're already pretty high as far as tiered pricing of being at the best.
All right, we'll do one more question from the floor and then we'll wrap it up. And while I do that, I'm going to launch a poll. We've talked about a lot of features here. Some of you guys probably use some of it, some of you don't. What other business management flavors of house would you like more training on? We talked about schedule, we talked about selections, estimates, proposals. We talked lightly about 3D. There's all kinds of stuff that House Pro does. It's end to end. But let us know in the poll and we'll make more content about it, do more education, bring more panels together like this one. So there's a poll for you. And the last question from the floor, unless someone has more, is do you include cost? What is that? James, what are you asking? Do you include a dollar cost per phase, like a code? I think I interpreted that right. Luke or Natalie, can you see that question from James? I want to make sure I'm not getting it wrong.
I don't know that I'm really
see
it.
Oh,
is it maybe per phase of construction? So more so, Natalie, maybe for you, land acquisitions, site work, foundation kind of thing, and then framing and exterior, and then finishes. Maybe.
Yeah, that we do. Not like along the way, but up front when we get the estimate, then it is broken down into, just like site prep, land acquisition, permits. It is broken down that way for what we're asking. And then it's broken down to framing. It's broken down to concrete. And then we have electrical, we have plumbing, like your roughs and things like that. So when we do our estimates, we usually follow a base. We start out with the base template from House and then tailor that. And so usually on our estimate, it's like from top to bottom, like the process of the build from the land permits, site preparation, down to the finishes, down through the bottom. If that's what you're asking, that's kind of how we label it.
Yeah, ours is sequenced as well, so much so that I remove the pricing and I print it out and I give it to the guys as scope of work. Yeah. So there's enough description to it and detail to it that they understand, and it's sequenced I mean, not that they need to know sequencing, but and they have it in their build packet along with selections and a few other things.
Yeah.
Lovely. I think we'll end up with one question. David, I see your question about it would be great to do this next time with a screen share, so you guys can walk through and like show them in House Pro how detailed your scopes are, how easy it is to do a template and turn it in and use it for the next project. We'll do that next time. You guys will all get the recording of this session. But that's great content for next time, David, to do like a deep dive, if you will, or an Ask Me Anything with Luke pulling back the curtain on how he runs his business, if he's into it.
I'm into it.
So lovely. Okay. So David, you see Luke's email up in the chat. Shoot him a note. Luke is a very nice guy. He'll be happy to help. So what the last question I want to end on here is, we talked a lot about educating clients and communicating well. In my mind, communication starts from education. If you can educate a homeowner about it, they'll understand it and then maybe be a little more empathetic with you and your team. What tools or resources are missing for homeowners so that they understand your process? Because you're driving them across the country, but they've never driven across the country before. So what educational materials can the folks here in the audience provide to their clients and even prospects?
I think it's kind of like what I was talking about at the beginning. Like you almost need a class as being the client, right? Like this is how you build a home. And like I said, I provide kind of like a Google slide of this is a process and this is what you can expect. But I think kind of like the sun is setting like right now. Like my blinds open, so go to an hour. I'm trying to find the right spot where it's not glaring. But I try to provide upfront. It is education. We do this every single day. You know, a lot of things we can do our eyes closed and we know what to expect and we know what the process it is. But I think as on the builder side of thing, we have to remember that our clients, this isn't everyday thing that they do for them. You know, they don't understand the entire process. So I think upfront, maybe talking to your clients and understanding what is their experience when it comes to building, but be that source of education to them, you know, and have that patience for them, that as we go through the process, like I will help you understand if you have questions, but you know, here is what's going to happen and here's what my process, and having that clear communication for them about how that's going to happen. And I'm here. Like, if you have questions, you don't understand something, then just come ask me. I've had homeowners call me up and just like, well, why is this and this and this and this and this and this? I'm like, hey, can I stop you for just a minute? Okay. This is our process. This is what's happening because A, B, and C. Oh, I didn't know that, you know? So I think that we have to take that on ourselves and be the educator. And making sure that communication is open to our clients at all times if they're not understanding part of the process.
Yeah, 100%. The team and I actually been talking quite a bit about how do we pre-educate our audience, because most of our audience is referrals, or people have been stalking us on socials before they reach out to us. So there's an opportunity for us to educate, whether it's real time, here's how we install a backsplash using lasers and layouts, to here's why we replace all the galvanized pipe in this remodel. Like there's a lot of educational opportunities that we need to do better at, so that when a client engages with us, they come a bit preloaded with real stuff instead of HGTV. There's actually a designer in our area that we're starting to work with a little bit, and she has a rule. Her rule is once the contract is signed, the client has to delete their Pinterest app.
I love that. That's a great
because
rule.
it constantly is bringing new ideas, and now it's these competing things, and now it's as if there's somebody that's shoving us out of the driver's seat all the time. So education is critical. I'm actually really interested in Julia's construction process form there. She put it in the chat. I think she needs to share that with me, because it's lighthearted. I love that. Like,
let's get everybody to use it.
Remodeling is stressful. We might as well make it fun if we can, you know. Mm-hmm. And the education, the preloading the education with the client, understanding the process, great pre-construction, oh my gosh, now homeowners can actually enjoy the process. Like, what a dream.
Cameron, do you have a class on house? Like
I've been furiously
construction
typing in the background.
101?
Well, I mean, that's my big.
You can just send them a link to a house and be like, this is a lighthearted, this is what to expect when building a house.
Yeah. Julia, if you're willing to share that, we'll get it out to the world. But also like home building 101 for homeowners, not for the contractor. That's your profession. Well, here's what's going to happen. Here's what to expect. Here's how to keep your marriage intact throughout the project. Here's how to hand over the keys and still be friends or buddies with your contractor. All that stuff is super important. Yeah, we're like Luke said earlier, we're hoping to elevate the industry and the experience for all homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Luke, Natalie, thank you so much for taking an hour and 3 minutes out of your day. And all of you 28 folks around the country and in Canada who joined us today. Thank you so much for the thoughts, for the time, the attention, and all the questions. You guys will get the recording. And thank you, Julia. We'll pay it forward. You guys all have a great day.
Yep,
Thank you.